Good evening and welcome. Tonight we will be going over the history and geography of the Basque country within Spain. But a couple of quick notes before we get into the geography portion, which I guess has to do with geography. So anyway, we are covering, like I said, the Basque country within Spain. The historic Basque region stretches further into Navarre, actually incorporates Navarre, you can see right here, and parts of France up here. But we are talking about the autonomous region of the Basque country, also known as Euskadi, in the Basque country, in Basque. And a quick note about the word Basque, because my whole life I've said Basque, because I've done ballet my whole life, and actually when I taught ballet, one of the first steps that I would teach the preschool dancers was called pas de Basque, or step of the Basque. Really simple 3-point step. And because of that, I would always call this place Basque until like maybe a year ago someone pointed out to me like it's pronounced Basque in English. So if I slip up and say Basque, my bad, I guess, but also that's how it's mostly pronounced in this corner of the world. So I'll try to say Basque because I try to keep it in American English because that's the language I speak. But if I slip up, oh well, I don't think it's that big of a deal, right? I'm trying my best. The Basque country. The Basque country is in northern Spain, almost as far north as you can get in the Iberian Peninsula, bordering the Bay of Biscay up here. The bay, you can just see Biscay right there. The Bay of Biscay. It has a gorgeous coastline. Of course, I'll show you on a Google Earth. It's all very rugged and rocky, kind of reminds me of Ireland or Scotland, which isn't too terribly far off that way. So it's gorgeous. I'll show you later. We have the coastline here. Down in the south, we have the Basque Mountains. And in the middle here, we have the Alava Plains. So we got coast, lowland, highland. Now you might have noticed something a little interesting on this map, and that is this chunk here and this chunk here. And these are actually exclaves. This one being of Castile and Leon, which is down here. And this is of Cantabria, which is over here. And long story short is that those two areas used to occupy most of the Basque country, and when things were reshuffled and the Basque country was officially formed, these areas just remained part of the older areas. That's the short version of what could be a very long, complicated story, so I'll just keep it nice and short. The de facto capital is right here, and I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Vitoria-Gasteiz. Basque is a tricky language in that it is not related to any other language in the world. So that's something. There's very few languages that are like that. And I haven't quite mastered pronunciation. I didn't really take too much time to try to perfect it. So I'm going to skip saying a lot of place names, only when I have to, like this place. So, of course, we're going to talk about this city and its history, and we'll talk about why it has a hyphenated name. The most populous city by far is Bilbao up here, which is very famous for the Guggenheim Museum, which, of course, we're going to look at on Google Earth. There's also San Sebastian. You can see over here is a big tourist summertime beachy location. among many other locations. We'll talk about Guernica in history, and we'll talk about Bermeo in history. Bilbao, even though its most famous site is the Guggenheim Museum, actually has a UNESCO World Heritage Site. So let me try to slide my tablet into this precarious position I have set up here so that we can read about this interesting bridge. I might have to move this over this way. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Can you see? Can you read it? I think so. Okay. The Vizcaya Bridge. I hope you can see. The Vizcaya Bridge straddles the mouth of the Ubaizabal estuary west of Bilbao. It was designed by the Basque architect Alberto de Palacio and completed in 1893. The 45-meter high bridge, with its span of 160 meters, merges 19th century ironworking traditions with the then new lightweight technology of twisted steel ropes. It was the first bridge in the world to carry people and traffic on a high suspended gondola, and was used as a model for many similar bridges in Europe, Africa, and the Americas, only a few of which survive. With its innovative use of lightweight twisted steel cables, it is regarded as one of the outstanding architectural iron constructions of the Industrial Revolution. So let's check out this really unique bridge. So you can see it has this, where's a good picture? Here we go. This long portion here. And this actually carries a little gondola that can carry cars and people across the river. Here you can see it going. And it's actually really speedy, as you can see there. And just a very interesting concept. It's very steampunk. It looks like a little flying car going over the river. It's really cool. Hopefully, if I remember, I'll check it out on Google Earth. Pretty neat. All right, let's head back up here to the Basque country. Bum, bum, bum. Are we there? We are there. Okay. Sorry if you see my desk peeking out. We're at the top of my book here. Again, at a very precarious angle. This is a huge map of Spain that I'm leaning over the entirety of to reach this part. So, like I said, the Basque language is very unique. The Basque people are very unique in themselves as well. And that they are the indigenous people here. They have always been here. Of course, there's evidence of very ancient, early humans and things like that, but the Basque people have pretty much always been in this area of the world. But before we get too far into that, just a quick note in that in the year 581 CE, the Romans established a town called Victoriacum somewhere in this area. It's unknown where this town was built. It did not last very long, but it was somewhere in this vicinity, okay? Just keep that in mind for a minute. The Basque people we were talking about have pretty much always been here, and there are many times where there was an attempt to remove them or even assimilate them. The Franks certainly tried, didn't quite work. The Muslims, as they invaded up from southern Spain up into the north, attempted to conquer and assimilate, did not quite happen. In fact, they were like a buffer zone between the Moors, as they were known in Spain, and France up here. Like a little pocket of like neither culture in the middle of this invasion force conquering what have you. The Vikings even tried to sail on down and have their way, and they certainly tried, but did not get a firm grasp on this area. The region was mainly part of the kingdom of Pamplona. You can see Pamplona's right here. And the region was generally known as Vasconia, which is where we get the word Basque, Basconia. Castilian's weird. But eventually this area here would slowly be administered by Castile and Leon. Well, first Castile, it would later become Castile and Leon. And parts of, once Navarre became its own thing, and Cantabria would take over parts of it, but most of it was Castile and Leon. Just a note for that as well. In the year 1181, this town was founded, and they named it Nova Victoria on the assumption that this was the ancient Victoriacum site. We don't know if that's true or not, but it was somewhere near here. So the official Spanish name was Vitoria. The Basque name is Gasteiz. So today it's known by both names. So you can pronounce it Vitoria, you can say Gasteiz, you can say Vitoria Gasteiz. Either one works, people will know what you're talking about. Bilbao up here was founded in the late 13th century, and it was actually meant to be a port. And I'm sure you're looking at this map going, how in the world is this a port? Well, this is a huge river estuary heading out here into the Bay of Biscay, as we kind of saw in the bridge pictures. That is the Nervion River. I hope I'm saying that right. And the city was founded in just the sweet spot where things could be carried back and forth or even sailed down to this port area. And it became a free port in 1372. So I said we talk about Bermeo. Before then, Bermeo was the main seaport of this region, but Bilbao became more and more prominent as time went on, and today is still the main shipping seaport of the Basque country and pretty much this whole area of northern Spain, to be honest. We're going to skip ahead through some history here. If you guys think, if anyone watching is Basque or is an expert on Basque history and want to be like, actually should have mentioned this and this and this thing, feel free to plop it down in the comments. If I think it's super relevant, I'll pin it to the top. So if you want more information, you can go check the comments if that's so. But we're going to skip ahead to the 1800s, because what was happening in the 1800s, the early 1800s? Napoleon was happening in the early 1800s, and the French came and invaded this region in 1808 with Napoleon's grand idea that he put his brother Joseph on the throne of Spain and control the area. And they certainly tried, but they were eventually defeated. And a huge battle occurred out here, the Battle of Vittoria in 1813, led by the Duke of Wellington, as in the Duke of Wellington that fought Napoleon at the Battle of Waterloo. This was the nail in the coffin for French control of Spain and the Iberian Peninsula in general. And it was a huge, victorious battle for Britain and for Spain as well, to get Napoleon and the French out of here. Very important battle in Napoleonic history. There was a lot of conflict here during the First and the Third Carlist Wars, which were essentially like the War of the Spanish Succession Part 2 and 3 and 4. It was messy. So messy, in fact, that later this guy named Francisco Franco was like, what if we just didn't have a monarchy? What if we were just fascist? And in the 1930s, he would take over Spain and implement his fascist dictatorship. Now, the Basque country under the monarchy had managed to obtain autonomy in 1936, which was a point of pride for these people because they had really been pushing for either autonomous rule or they're just their own country, their own rule. So they were kind of on the way until Franco steamrolled those plans. He abolished their autonomy in 1939 during the peak of the Spanish Civil War, as his nationalists invaded and took over the area and implemented his dictatorship. And a quick note about the village of Guernica here. In 1937, Franco allowed Nazi Germany to completely bomb out this city in a way, like, one was to practice, which is heartbreaking, and two, as a way of intimidating the locals here to bend to his will by rule of fear. Guernica was laid waste in the middle of the night from these bombs, and as we're going to see on Google Earth later, Pablo Picasso painted a very famous depiction of that event. I'm sure you've seen it before in some capacity. It's a very disturbing, emotional painting. But that is Guernica. We'll look at it later on Google Earth. Also, before any of this happened, in 1918, there was a huge global pandemic of a flu. And here in America, even though it originated in America, in Kansas, in America we called it the Spanish flu. And that is mainly because of how badly it broke out in Madrid. But where in Spain was the first major breakout? Here in San Sebastian. All that did was lead me down a rabbit hole of research into what different countries and cultures refer to it as. Many of them blamed it on a different race or country. It's very interesting. My favorite, though, was in Japan. They called it the sumo flu because it was introduced to the country via sumo wrestlers who had traveled for a competition. But pretty much every country had a word for it in which they blamed a different culture or country for introducing it to their country. So in America, we called it the Spanish flu, even though it had nothing to do with Spain and originated in America. Just a side note, let's head back to the dark days of the rule of Francisco Franco. So the Basque people here were obviously not pleased about this turn of events, and some thought that the only way to get their voice heard was to rise up as violently as possible. And in 1959, an organization known as ETA was formed. Now, at first, I'm going to say this very carefully for YouTube monetization purposes, right? We're going to say that ETA, which is my YouTube-friendly way of describing what this group was, were people who blew things up on purpose, right? We've done this before on the channel. You can kind of guess the T word that I'm referring to, but YouTube doesn't like it if you say that word too many times in a video. So we're just going to say that they were people who blew things up on purpose, and they certainly have blown up many things. At first, they went after, obviously, Franco and his cronies, his organization. They went after fascists, basically. But his regime would fall apart after his death, mainly because ETA blew up the guy that was supposed to take over after him. There's a joke, a really dark joke in Spain, because they blew up his car and it went flying, like, up high, that it was the first time a Spaniard was launched into space. Dark humor. Sorry for the noise outside. Anyway. But so Franco's regime crumbled, and in its wake, I didn't write it down. I didn't write down the year. After the monarchy was restored, they made it a constitutional monarchy. A lot of issues that ETA was fighting against were gone, but the main one was still in place. They wanted pretty much Basque independence, right, from Spain. They didn't want to be a part of Spain at all. And this is when the story becomes very dark indeed. And we're not going to get into most of the details, mainly because it's extremely depressing for an ASMR video. The very horrific tactics that they used to get their message out. We're going to visit a memorial museum to this time where you can see some artifacts during their reign of terror over Spain. But it was horrifying. I didn't want to dig too deep into it because it made me too sad. But the good news is that in 2011, they announced a ceasefire and they turned in all their weapons, and there's not been any attack of any kind from the organization. It's basically defunct at this point. And that is because, like all of the other major regions of Spain, it has autonomy. They have their own government buildings. They have their own laws within Spain. It's kind of like how here in the United States, that each state has their own government and their own laws within the United States. I would say that Spain takes it a step further, and that the Basque Country takes it an even bigger step further. I saw a source that said that the Basque Country here of Scotty is the most autonomous place in Europe, other than independent countries, you know. So they basically got what they were fighting for, but they wanted to be their own country, you know. They did not get full independence, but I think they got the next best thing, and there's no need to fight for independence. Clearly it was becoming too much that the people here couldn't, you know, justify this kind of violence anymore. It just needed to stop, and thankfully it did, and now it's a very peaceful place to visit, and you don't have to worry about being kidnapped or anything. Anyway, the region would change forever in 1997 here in Bilbao, when the Guggenheim Museum was constructed, a beautiful, gorgeous Frank Gehry constructed modern art museum. The art may be a little bit too weirdly modern for me, but I can appreciate the beauty in the architecture of the building, and some of the installations I think are really thought-provoking, and it's hard to imagine Bilbao without the Guggenheim nowadays. It's kind of hand in hand. It's like saying the Empire State Building in New York, the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. Like, how can you think of Bilbao without thinking of the Guggenheim? And it's really made this whole northern area flourish and made it a must-see destination in Spain, which is wonderful. And that is basically where we are today. I didn't mention the Basque diaspora because there are a lot of Basque people in the United States. I know for one thing, I lived in Reno, Nevada earlier this year, and there was a huge Basque community. I'd planned, before I had to suddenly move up here to Washington and Idaho, that I was going to show pictures of this really cool memorial on this hiking trail to the original Basque community that settled in Reno, Nevada. But I don't live there anymore, so I didn't get a chance to film it and show you. But many of the towns, well, okay, there's 3 cities in Nevada, right? There's Reno, Las Vegas, and Winnemucca. And Reno and Winnemucca, and Vegas too, to an extent, are pretty much what they are today because of their Basque communities coming to look for wealth and riches and gold and silver and building up those communities. But now I live in Idaho, and so I looked up if there was a Basque diaspora in Idaho, and there certainly is, but it's in Boise, and I'm not near Boise otherwise. I'm sure there's memorials there as well, and apparently there's a big Basque festival there in Boise. There's also a very large Basque diaspora within South America and many places throughout the world, you know, just like many different cultures in Europe have massive communities in other parts of the world, like the Irish, Italians, so on and so forth. The Basque is part of that. Some very famous people are of Basque descent, like Simon Bolivar, who basically made South America what it is today. Eva Perón, probably one of the most beloved figures in Argentina's history, is of Basque descent. The current Queen of the Netherlands, the wife of Willem-Alexander, Queen Maxima, is of Basque descent. I guess my favorite Basque from history would be Juan Sebastian Elcano, who was the first person to actually circumnavigate the globe. He was on Magellan's crew to sail around the world. Magellan did not make it. Elcano did. He was the first person to sail around the world. Very precariously, but he did it. He barely survived, along with his very few crewmen that were left behind, or that survived, I should say. But anyway, I'm going to stop rambling, and we're going to head over to Google Earth to see what we can find in this beautiful little corner of Spain. All right, my cat woke up during that transition. He's sniffing my toes right now. He has been a nightmare all night. He has been frenzied, and when I filmed all that, you just saw he was finally calm, and then he just snapped awake. So hopefully he doesn't make too much of a disturbance. But anyway, here is the Basque country. Let's zoom out so you can see exactly where we are. If you've never heard of the Bay of Biscay or anything like that, it is this huge corner here of the Atlantic Ocean. Here's the Iberian Peninsula, consisting of Spain and Portugal. And you can see France right here. The Pyrenees Mountains creating this border here between Spain and France, essentially, with Andorra squeezed in there. But traditional Basque country overflows into this area over here. But let's look at the autonomous region in Spain. I guess we'll start down here in Victoria-Gasteiz. Let's see. So actually, let's take a look at the town as a whole, because it's quite charming. Look at this. Very modern with that kind of Spanish touch to it. Classic but modern, Ancient sites, old churches, but all with a kind of modernization to them. But like I promised, I would show you, and I think I have to have the everything filter on for it to appear, is that, I think it's over here. Here we go. The Memorial Museum to the victims of terrorism. Let's put it that way. And we can see here in this building, here is a bomb set up in the trunk of a car. That was one of the main ways that they would blow things up on purpose. They have some reconstructed rooms. Police robot there. Some weapons there. Those rooms were used for hostages. You can peek in here, and people were kidnapped and held in these underground rooms for months, if not even years, My cat is chewing on a wire. Great. This is a very serious topic, cat. I'd really appreciate it if you didn't try to chew on wires right now. But to each their own, I suppose. We all cope with depressing stories in different ways, don't we? There's a bomb squad suit, full-on Hurt Locker there. An exploded drum. So yeah, many artifacts from this time. And like I said, this time is long over. There's no need to worry about very scary institutions doing things like that anymore. They are done, thankfully. I guess we should just do what you all are waiting to do and head over to Bilbao. Let's go. So let's see if we can find the bridge. I never actually looked it up on Google Earth. It looks like it's right here. Right, let's go to the 3D. Oh, that looks like a regular road bridge. Okay, we're gonna find it. Oh boy. We are gonna find it. That's a road bridge. That's a road bridge. That's a road bridge. It's a very famous archway here near the Guggenheim. You can see right there. It's a pretty one too. Look at all these bridges. One of you has to be it. I thought it was further out of the town though. Okay. We'll type it in later. Let's look at the Guggenheim. What you can even see here in its 3D model is something else, isn't it? From above. And 3D version. Go back. There we go. Guggenheim Bilbao. It's like it's moving, it's like a kinetic building. It looks like it's flowing and changing, and the water here certainly helps. There's the bridge there. Like part of the art, right? Stunning building. Now there's some modern art you can see out here, which this one's very scary, I think. This big spider. I don't like that. I think it's creepy, but it's good art if it evokes an emotion in you. And then over here on the complete opposite end of the spectrum is Puppy. You can see giant Puppy here, which is a big dog made out of flowers. A very good boy here at the Guggenheim. I don't know. I don't like that. At least there's Puppy at this beautiful building here. There aren't any interior pictures. But that's okay. I guess you gotta come to Bilbao and head to the museum yourself to check it out. Alright, let's find this bridge. Yeah, I probably should have looked it up beforehand, shouldn't I? Silly me. Vizcaya Bridge. Let's go. Oh, wow, I was way off. Wow, it's very near the mouth of the river, isn't it? Here's the whole port area. Here is the bridge. There it is in 3D. I was hoping we could see a gondola going in 3D, but sadly it looks like it is not. So yeah, little UNESCO bridge here. You can take an elevator to the very top, or you can ride across it. There's a view from the top and a view from the gondola. Here it comes. Very interesting design. This just floats across like it's in the Jetsons or something. It's giving steampunk, and it used to be steam powered too. There's the river. Pretty neat, isn't it? Let's see. Why don't we look at some, there goes my cat, some natural sites here. Like this park here. So we can see some of the more beautiful mountainous areas. Isn't that gorgeous? A cool cave there. A big dam by the looks of it. There are many different really cool sights to see all throughout this area here. Oh, isn't that beautiful? I'd highly encourage you to hop on Google Earth yourself and poke around and see what you can find, because there are so many gorgeous, so that's kind of a scary cave, so many gorgeous little towns like these, so many beautiful lush green valleys, lots of wind power there, lots of sights to see. Let's see over here. Look at these rocks. Oh, wow. Churchy area up at the top. Very cool. Oh, wow. So many different points there. Really cool. Let's see. All right, looking at this last one. Pretty waterfall there, isn't it? Oh, this is like a haunted wood. Look how unusual these trees are growing. Look, it's like nothing down here, and then it just forks up. And look at all this cool moss here on the roots. That is a strange forest, but in the best way, huh? Lots of interesting things in this area. Yeah, there is so much to see. Oh my gosh, that'll make you grow like Mario. But you probably shouldn't try these mushrooms without consulting someone who knows better first. Look at that. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. Flowcat. Being silly. Alright, I think... Oh no, I promised you Guernica. So here is the village of Guernica. Again, it was completely flattened at really the start of World War II. Even though Spain didn't technically participate in World War II, this town was a victim of that. There's a faraway painting. I think there's 4 or 5 copies of this painting, one of which is in the United Nations building in New York City. So this is a memorial. You can see pictures of what this spot looked like after the bombing. Even some rubble left over that they left in place and built this museum on top of. So you could walk over this glass panel here and see all of the destruction. Wow. Pretty powerful, isn't it? There's the painting being made. There's a big bomb. I guess maybe an exploded shell. And this statue, I love this statue because you can see the Basque flag here, and it really looks like it's waving, and it's tinged with the colors of the Basque country. It's a really beautiful statue there. But yeah. Interesting. All right. Let's close out this video with a look at San Sebastian. And see the gorgeous coastal town here. Oh, big pretty pool. And of course the crashing ocean waves down here by the beach side. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. And again, I barely scratched the surface of sites you can see here in the Basque country, so please check it out for yourself. If you enjoyed this style of content, please consider subscribing. If you've learned something new, give this video a thumbs up and let me know what you learned down in the comments below. And you're going to want to stick around because next in my ongoing series, we are heading over to Iraq. And I'm so excited now to do places in Iraq because my Iraqi viewers, I think, are some of the kindest. Now listen, a lot of you in other countries are so sweet and so nice. When your country pops up, I just did Italy and I'm getting Italians being like, oh my gosh, we're talking about my country. But the Iraqi viewers, I feel like, are the most just proud and humble and surprised that I'm talking about their country and just so pleased that I'm doing so. It's so endearing and they seem like just the kindest, sweetest viewers out there. So I can't wait to see more comments from my Iraqi viewers. So I'm excited to talk about Iraq again. But we're going to head over to Basra, which I'm very excited to show you on Google Earth as well. So be sure to subscribe so you won't miss out. I hope that you found this video to be relaxing and educational. And I hope that you have a good night. Good night.